This week, the HPT crowns a new champion from the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Card Room in sunny Florida. As always, our televised final table started with 9. This week, we continue the grind to a champion with 6 players left battling for the top prize of over $104,000. The action up to this point has been fearless and intense. HPT immortality and life-changing money awaits the last player standing.
This is the HPT.
Sit right down, put on your poker face, you with the big dogs now. Better bring your best game, talk trash all you want. To me it's all the same, you won't leave with much when you come in second place. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gon' cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.
Hello and welcome again to the HPT, where this week we crown a champion from the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room here in Daytona Beach, Florida. I'm Fred Bevel. Beside me is the beautiful, the talented, and ruthless at the poker table, Maria Ho.
I'm not ruthless, I'm competitive.
Okay.
If I were ruthless, I'd laugh every time I want a pot off of you. Instead, I snicker under my breath. This action at this final table has been ruthless, though. This final table has hit the trifecta of hero calls, bad beats, and risky bluffs.
Over $104,000 is waiting up top for one of these 6 remaining players. Maria, so far we've seen that these players aren't afraid to get it in when they think they have the best hand, and they all have a little gamble in their game as well.
Indeed. This is still anybody's tournament to win, though, and as we've seen many times in poker, the momentum can swing in just one hand. Patience, well-timed aggression, and picking the right spots to make a play will be the keys to victory.
We started this final leg with 9, now there are 6. A lot of poker yet to be played as we wind down to our newest champion. Let's take a look at the money on the line, the updated chip counts, and then get right to the action.
First place is not only going to walk away with that title, but $104,000 and change. Our 6th place finisher today will be taking home at least $19,000.
And here is the updated chip count as we continue 6-handed on the road to a champion.
It's a pretty tight race at the top, but Kong Pham, who started this final table as our chip leader, is still our chip leader with just over $2.4 million. John Hawley's right behind him, and our short stacks are Luis Sierra and Thomas Georgie.
Luis Sierra has been one of the short stacks the entire final table. The guy has a lot of fight in him, and he's only got $360 invested into this event. We continue 6-handed with the blinds here at $30,000 and $60,000 with a $10,000 chip ante. And action will start with Thomas Georgie. He's going to fold, as does Luis, along with Justin Fausch. Now we're on James Calderaro. The Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room uses the European placard-style chips for their bigger denominations.
They just look cooler. And Caldo is going to put those plaques to use, raising on the button with Jack 10 suited. It's going to make it $160,000 to go. Of course, Kong Pham, never one to give up in the blinds that easily, is going to 3-bet, it looks like.
Kong Pham has been driving the action at this final table since we began 9-handed last time on the HPT. He's got a lot of gamble in him, and he's going to keep the pressure on his opponents.
He makes it $400,000 to go. John Hawley in the big blind looks at Queen 9. Probably not going to play Queen 9 offsuit to a cold 3-bet.
John is a professional fisherman, might be the coolest job on the planet. He also lives in Niceville, Florida. That just seems like a nice place to visit.
Caldo here with Jack 10 suited is probably not going anywhere. It's a hand that will play good post flop, and he's in position. Plus, Kong's been known to show a deuce here or there on his 3-bets.
Kong has shown a couple of bluffs so far at this final table. That's affected the dynamics of play against him.
And James does indeed call from the button.
And the flop is Ace, 10, Queen, Rainbow. So both players get a little bit of this. Kong connects with top pair. James hits bottom pair.
Both Kong and James have straight draws for Broadway here, and the turn is the king of spades, which makes James' straight draw come in here, and Kong's going to check it over to him.
James is more than likely going to fire a bet here on the turn. The question is, what's Kong going to do? And James does fire, makes it 250,000 to go.
By James. 250 is the wager. Over to Kong.
I like the restraint Kong showed. Once James did call his 3-bet pre-flop, Kong realized that that might not be the best flop to fire a continuation, and here he's just going to call the 250,000, not completely believing that James has a better hand, but not wanting to put a lot of chips into this pot either with just a top pair.
The river is the deuce of clubs, so James has the best hand with Broadway.
Kong checks it over to him, and I think if I were James, I would just bet pretty small here. It looks like Kong has a one-pair kind of hand, and if James wants him to call, he's going to probably have to bet less than a third pot.
1.4 million in the pot, and he fires 400,000.
I think that's just too big of a bet, to be honest. I don't think Kong's going to hero him here. James hasn't really shown that he's much of a bluffer, especially to bluff that kind of board on the river is very, very difficult for most players to do. I guess I was wrong, though, because it looks like Kong is going to call James on the river, basically thinking that James was bluffing the turn and the river with air, and James is going to take down a really nice size pot.
The thing about a player who likes to bluff, they always think they're getting bluffed. Hence, they pay you off on the river.
It's very, very true. And I think Kong needs to not fall prey to that because he's doing a great job of utilizing his image, but he needs to know when to fold.
Both Justin and Caldo and Kong fold here. We're now on John Hawley in the 1 seat, and he's got a big hand with pocket kings.
Daytona, baby.
Huge hand here on the button for John, and he's going to make it 130,000 to go.
Thomas Georgie looks down at ace-5.
Thomas Georgie, with only 10 big blinds here, is probably going to move all in, and he does do that, and you can't really fault him for having an ace in the small blind against button open. Is a pretty good hand, and he's unfortunately just up against a monster.
Thomas going to the flop with 1 overcard to John's pocket kings. They call kings ace magnets. John is hoping that's not true in this hand.
The flop is Jack 10-7 rainbow. No help to Thomas.
Good flop for pocket kings. Just 2 more streets to fade.
And the turn is an ace, and unfortunately for John, that puts Thomas in the lead, and he is in good shape to double up here. John's going to need a king or a queen on the river in order to knock out Thomas.
The river is the 8 of spades, so the kings again are going to get cracked. Boy, pocket kings, you know, you get it all in and you see that your opponent has an ace. You just almost know it's coming. This game is not fair. John will try to shake off that bad beat as we are 6-handed on the road to a championship from the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room here in Daytona, Florida.
Welcome back to the HPT, coming to you from beautiful, sunny Daytona Beach, Florida, and the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room. 6 players remain here at this televised final table. Maria and Fred, we'll send it over to you.
Thanks, James. And it looks like we have a new chip leader. James Calderaro is now over the 3 million mark. Justin Fausch is just under 2 million. And our short stack, Luis Sierra, is just refusing to go anywhere, grinding out the 12 big blinds.
Luis Sierra at one point had 5 big blinds in his stack, so 12 big blinds is probably making him feel rich right now. True definition of grinder, that's Luis Sierra. Been riding the short stack all final table, and he has not given up on this final table. I love it. James Calderaro is going to fold. Kong fam behind him folds. We're now over to John Hawley, who just had his kings cracked, which might be leading to this kind of a play. Makes it 130 with king 5 suited.
John's going to open up his raising range here with 21 bigs. And Luis is now going to move all in with queen 10 of diamonds here.
Luis has been very, very good at picking the right spots. This time, if he gets called, he will be behind, but he'll be live. And he does get action from John, so here we go. Whoa. A little under 1.5 million in this pot. That would be a new high watermark for Luis if he can suck out here against John. If John's king high can hold up or connect, he will send Luis to the rail in 6th place.
And the flop is queen 6-8 rainbow, and Luis has outflopped John, pairing his queen.
Maria, you've said it many times, to win a big tournament, you need to win the coin flips. Right now, Luis is winning this one.
And the turn is the Jack of clubs. Lewis is still in the lead. John is looking for a king on the river, or else Lewis is going to survive yet again.
Lewis trying to double up against the king five of the 1 seed. Jamie, let's go ahead and see the river card.
And that river is the 8 of spades. And the rail is loving it. Lewis has picked up quite a few fans at this final table as he's been grinding that short stack, but he's not so short anymore. He is enjoying just under 1.5 million in chips in front of him. And I think Lewis is now in business to be a contender at this final table.
Lewis finally has some chips that he could play post-flop with, and hopefully he'll put them to good use.
Blinds continuing at 30 and 60,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. John Hawley's going to fold. This is Thomas Georgie with Jack 10 suited. Thomas is a professional poker player playing his first HBT event. He lists about 50,000 in career winnings, so he could double his lifetime winnings right here at this final table. He's going to raise it up to 125,000 with Jack 10 suited. Justin Fausch looks down at King Queen.
And Thomas hasn't really gotten out of line at this final table, but Justin does only have 15 big blinds, and it looks like he thinks King Queen is a good enough hand to get it all in here with.
Well, he is ahead right now, but right next to him, James Calderaro peeled back pocket sevens. And there's just too much action in front of him to play it. But look at this, Kong Pham wakes up with aces, and he's just going to flat call Maria.
I think Kong was trying to trap Thomas in there a little bit, but Thomas doesn't have a good enough hand to call. Now, unfortunately for Justin, his tournament life will be at risk.
So again, the aces are in the lead going up against the mom and dad.
The flop is 10-4-7 with a couple of diamonds, neither player holding a diamond. So right now, Justin's King Queen fell even further behind, didn't flop any kind of a sweat.
The turn is the 9 of diamonds, and now Justin can hit a jack and make a straight.
That's the only out he has. A jack and only a jack on the river. Otherwise, Justin Fausch's final table is over. And that is what's going to happen as the King of Spades falls on the river. Justin Fausch, 29 years old from Cocoa Beach, Florida, is going to go home with a little under $20,000. And we owe this gentleman a thank you for his service as he is in the Navy. We hope to see him at a final table again very, very soon.
Justin played a great game this final table, but unfortunately just had the wrong timing here with his all-in.
And then there were 5, and the blinds have moved up as well. They're now 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. And Thomas Georgie is going to be first to act. 5 deuce is going to fold. Lewis folds right behind him. And now we are over to James Calderaro, likes to be called Caldo.
And a whole lot of action. James raises, Kong folds, and John immediately goes all in with ace-8. James quickly calls, and John's going to see that his ace-8 is way behind James's jacks.
Things have been going south for John Hawley in the 1 seed. He had his kings cracked. Then he called an all-in with king 5, and that didn't work out for him. Now he's way behind here against pocket jacks. The flop is 4-4-10 rainbow, so no help for John.
I don't mind John's shove with 16 bigs there against James, but of course he was hoping that it would just get through, but James had a calling hand.
And the turn is a jack of clubs, giving James a full house, and that's going to do it. John is drawing dead as he walks around the table and thanks everybody for his HBT experience. 5th place here at the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room is paying just under $24,000. That's going to buy a lot of bait for the professional fishermen. Well, Maria, this final table is what we thought it would be, action-packed. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back at the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room here on the HPT. Welcome back to the HPT, one of the most competitive final tables I've seen in a while here on the HPT. Let's get right back to the final table.
James Calderaro has a strong hold four-handed with over 5 million in chips, but watch out because Kong Pham is dangerous and has plenty of chips to play with. Although Luis Sierra is our short stack with 13 big blinds, he's managed to ladder up in the pay jumps quite well.
Blinds continuing at 40 and 80,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. As you can see, Caldo still stacking the chips from that big pot. And here we go, Lewis all in with Queen 9 offsuit.
Okay, under the gun here, Lewis ships all in, raises all in under the gun.
King 3 is not good enough to call 12 big blind shove there.
But Queen Jack might be, and Kong Pham certainly shown he will do that, and he is going to make the call. And boy, when Lewis sees this, he is going to be crushed. Both share the queen, but Kong has him out-kicked with the jack.
And so far, Lewis has picked his spots well at this final table, but Kong has him dominated here, and Lewis is in bad shape.
Lewis hoping to find a 9 on this board.
The flop is 6, deuce, ace, 2 clubs. Lewis does have the bigger club, but he's going to need them to come runner, runner, or hit a 9.
About a 4% chance to hit a runner, runner flush. Well, the 10 of clubs on the turn gets him halfway there, so Lewis with a sweat going to the river. He's looking to find another club or a 9 to stay alive at this final table.
The river is the king of diamonds, and Lewis does not quite have 9 lives today and is going to finish in 4th place.
What a run for Lewis, though. Like we've been saying, he rode this short stack all day long, fought really hard, and for a man with only $360 invested in this tournament, he's going home with almost $31,000. That's how we do it here on the HPT.
Great payday for Lewis. He really laddered well.
Starting this hand off, James is going to fold. Kong goes all in, and a quick call from Thomas Georgie, and Kong sees his hand is caught in the cookie jar here as he shoved with 10-5 offsuit.
Kong picked a bad time to try to put Thomas's tournament life at risk here.
No, I know. You don't want a hand. Come on.
The flop is 7, queen 3, and now Thomas all but has the hand won. Kong needs runner, runner trips or 2 pair in order to knock out Thomas.
Any old pair at all.
The turn brings the jack of diamonds.
And Kong's drawing dead. Thomas is going to double up through him.
A much needed double up for Thomas Georgie. As you can see, almost 1.4 million in chips going to Thomas's way. And Kong Pham, Maria, is going to have to put a Band-Aid on this gamble of his.
I always appreciate someone who's willing to put somebody else's tournament life at risk, but it's half bad timing and half Kong maybe needing to step on the brakes a bit.
All right, moving on here, 3-handed. One of these 3 gentlemen is going to cash for over $100,000 and go home with the HPT title. Kong Pham is going to fold. Thomas Georgie looks down at King 8. And he is going to raise it. Thomas makes it $180,000.
Caldo looks at 7-6 in the big blind and is going to call the 100,000 more.
Why not?
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's go ahead and see the flop, sir.
And the flop is 8-5-8. Caldo has flopped an open-ended straight draw. Thomas has flopped trips, though. This hand could get interesting.
This hand's going to be huge. Thomas bets 200. James quickly makes the call with his open-ended straight draw.
Turn card, please. 4 diamonds.
And the turn delivers the 4 of diamonds, and that is going to give James the straight and the lead in this hand. Thomas again fires 400,000.
I like Thomas's bet size here because the board is getting a little too coordinated and he wants to protect his hand. Unfortunately, it's too late because James has pulled ahead, but he is just gonna call and try to reel Thomas in some more.
No reason to raise here. Thomas hoping the board pairs the river to give him a full house, but it does not. It's the queen of hearts. So James has the best hand with the straight, and Thomas continues to fire. He goes all in, and a quick call from James.
Thomas had no reason to think he didn't have the best hand there. Unfortunately for him, James just turned an even better hand, and Thomas is going to be eliminated in 3rd place.
Thomas Georgie, a professional poker player with 50,000 in career winnings. Tonight he cashes for a little over 43,000, so he almost matches his lifetime total. He's standing by on the floor with James Larson.
Thank you, Maria and Fred. I'm now joined with Thomas, who just finished in third place. Pretty big hand there, 3/8, but you ran it right into that straight.
Yeah, it does happen. I mean, but I was very fortunate on several hands. I beat kings with my pocket jacks. I beat kings again with an ace-5 off. So, I mean, pretty good run on a lot of hands where I could have been out a lot earlier in the tournament. So a very fortunate run overall, despite that last hand where I took a little bit of a beat.
Yeah, you were really on life support for so long there, and then you had a couple double-ups, and it looks like you were coming back. But, you know, good news here is you're going out in third and just over $43,000. What are your plans for the money?
Pretty good little consolation prize. I'm sure I'll probably find some good use for it. Like that trip I was talking about for my wife and I on our anniversary. We're really going to enjoy ourselves, and that 43 will help just a little bit more.
All right, well, thanks so much for playing, and we hope to see you at another HPT event. Maria and Fred, we'll send it back over to you.
The action has been fast and furious, and I don't expect it to slow down anytime soon. We'll be right back here at the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room on the HPT right after this.
Welcome back to the HPT, coming to you from beautiful Daytona Beach and the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room. We are finally heads up. One of our final two players will be our new champion and go home with just over $104,000 in cash. Let's send it back over to Maria and Fred.
As we begin heads up play, James Calderaro has a 2-1 chip advantage over Kong Pham, but it's really anyone's game. They've both been playing great, and heads up play has a lot of changing dynamics.
And if anyone can change those dynamics, it's Kong Pham. He is an action player, and we've seen it many times. The momentum can change in just one hand when you're playing heads up, no limit poker. Blinds continue at 40 and 80,000 here with a 10,000 chip ante. In heads up play, the button is the small blind, and he'll be first to act pre-flop.
Kong raises from the button to 6-4 off, and James quickly re-raises to 400,000 with ace-7. I think he wants to come in and show Kong right off the bat that this isn't going to be the Kong show.
James saying, you're not going to push me around. And now Kong, I can't see him calling here with 6-4. I know heads up, your range widens dramatically on what your starting hands are going to play, but you've just been 3-bet. Time to let 6-4 go to the muck, I think.
Kong's thinking about trying to push James off this hand, but I don't know if James could be so easily pushed around, and although a7 is pretty marginal, he might even call Kong if Kong shoved here.
He is not going to make the call, and James knows what Kong is capable of, so he's going to step a little bit cautiously, I think, but he's also going to be aggressive at the same time. There's a fine line there.
The thing is, if you want to be aggressive against a player such as Kong and you want to 3-bet him light, you're going to have to be willing to call him off a little bit lighter.
I just want to see the flop. My hand not that strong.
Pay. You must pay.
That's right.
John sums it up right there. You're going to have to pay if you want to see a card. This hand, John peels back King Deuce, and he's just going to limp in. And Kong is going to check his option with 10-4.
As I've said before, I think it's important in heads-up play for the player to develop a limping range and a raising range and even a folding range pre-flop.
The flop is 3-3 ace rainbow.
Check. 120.
James is going to fire at this flop, makes it 120,000. Kong doesn't look like he's going anywhere. In fact, looks like he's stacking raising chips here. And that's exactly what he does, Maria. He jacks it up to 300,000.
I'm bluffing with the best hands. That ain't right.
And the problem is Kong isn't repping too much with this check raise here. It's a little improbable that he has an ace as he just flat called James raise, but James doesn't want to look him up here with king high.
James had the right read on this hand. He said, I'm bluffing with the best hand, but just couldn't pull the trigger.
He side me off. Don't worry. Thank you.
Time now for a poker life featuring the legend himself, Doyle Brunson. Maria, I know you're good friends with Mr. Brunson. I have only had the honor of meeting him a couple of different times, but one thing stands for sure, his stories are timeless. This week, Doyle is going to tell the story about how he had to leave Texas and Bobby Kennedy made him move to Las Vegas, brought to us by our friends at Ace Play Poker.
In 1973, Bobby Kennedy had passed an interstate gambling law where if you went across the state line with any kind of gambling paraphernalia, a deck of cards, a pair of dice, or with intent to go gamble somewhere, it was a felony. Well, I knew I couldn't live with that because I traveled all over the South. I go to Louisiana, Alabama, Oklahoma, Arizona. So I knew I was going to get in trouble. So I said, well, let's go where it's legal. And we came to Vegas. We had a motorhome. We brought it out with us. We stopped in New Mexico, I know, and lost a cat. I had to spend a day there for trying to find it. Came by Amarillo Slim's place, his ranch in Amarillo, where a horse bit Doyle, my daughter. Todd celebrated his 4th birthday on the way here. And there wasn't very many card rooms. The Golden Nugget, in fact, was about the only big one. And it was very small by today's standards. We got here and everybody liked it, you know, and we've been here ever since. I'm sure we might wind up in Montana in a few years, I don't know.
I don't know about you, but I'm having trouble keeping up with all of this action. More when we come back from Daytona Beach.
Welcome back to the HPT. Maria, what started out as hundreds of players is now down to just 2 players competing for the newest HPT championship and over $104,000. Let's get right to this final table.
Not a ton of movement heads up so far. They're feeling each other out. James still has the chip lead with about 6.2 million.
Yes, so far heads up, both these players playing like I expected them to. Kong Pham driving the action. James Calderaro standing up to the action. He is not going to let Kong push him around.
And I think both of these players understand that they have enough chips to play post-flop, so you should see a pretty interesting heads-up match.
James is going to raise it to 180,000 with Queen 8. Kong is going to call from the big blind with King 4. So far, no explosive pots here heads up, but we just got started. I have a feeling that's going to change pretty quick.
And the flop is 7-3 ace rainbow. Neither player has improved, but Kong still has the best hand with King high.
James fires the continuation bet of 180,000. And I don't think I've seen Kong fold on the flop yet at this final table. He always seems to at least see a turn card.
And one thing I've noticed about Kong is he usually check raises when he doesn't have anything, but he'll check call when he does hit a pair. I hope James is going to pick up on that soon, but for now he's going to fold.
Interesting observation, my friend. Interesting observation. That's why you're a pro and I'm not. James reaching for chips, but then froze there for a second. If this were baseball, he'd be called for a balk and the runner would advance. He's going to raise it to 225,000.
Kong picks up a big hand, heads up, ace queen suited, and I'm sure he will be 3-betting. It's just a matter of how much.
Raise.
He announces the raise.
700.
And he announces 700,000. That's a big raise. Just under $500,000 for James to call, and he says, "Uncle." And Kong is going to scoop another pot. You know, Kong started this heads-up match about a 2-to-1 chip dog. If he keeps winning these little smaller pots, that gap is going to close.
Kong definitely is closing the gap by putting the pressure on James, and we have a much tighter race here now.
Blinds have gone up. They're now 50 and 100,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. It's King 8 suited for James, and he's going to min raise it to 200,000. And look at this, another big hand for Kong. Last time it was ace queen, this time ace king. And it's another big re-raise. This time Maria to 600,000.
I don't know. He don't look all right, does he? It's like he's stuttering a little bit. You noticed that yourself, right? Okay.
At some point, James may get tired of it and just go all in with an inferior hand, and Kong is hoping that that's going to happen here.
Well, James was in a much better position last hand. He had 2 live cards against Kong's ace queen. This time, they both share the king, but James has a much lighter kicker.
You just really have to know when to pick your spots here. I think James has a pretty good hand here that he could call and play post-flop.
And that's what he does. He makes the 400,000 chip call. So now there's just a little over 1.2 million in this pot. On to the flop we go.
The flop is 5, Jack, Queen, all spades. Kong has the king of spades in his hand.
Neither player connects with a pair here. Kong flops a big draw. James sitting with king high. Maybe those spades will shut him down and he won't lose too much in this hand.
That's definitely not the flop James was looking for, and especially when Kong goes all in, James' hand is just going to fly into the muck.
Kong continues his winning ways. He's been the chip leader a couple of different times at this final table. We'll return to the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room right after this.
Welcome back to the HPT, coming to you from the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room. Let's get back to final table action. We'll send things over to Maria and Fred.
Kong Fam has now overtaken James as the chip leader in this heads-up battle. Kong has just under 6 million to James's 4 million.
Kong Fam has had the chip lead a couple of different times at this final table. His style of play is very volatile, so he's a very swingy player. Blinds are continuing at 50 and 100,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. We've seen James Calderaro on the HPT once before back in Colorado in March. He's an investor from New York, now lives in Manasota Beach, Florida, and he has over 1.8 million in career winnings.
Kong's on the button and raises to 200,000. James calls with 5 deuce off.
The flop is 6-5 king, so James connects with bottom pair. Kong has a gut shot straight draw. James checks over to Kong, and no surprise to anybody here in Daytona Beach, Florida, Kong is going to fire a continuation bet.
And although Kong only made it a min raise to go pre-flop, I don't know if I love James defending here just because now he's going to fold even though he flopped bottom pair, because Kong's not one to give up so easily after the flop, and when the flop is 6-5 king, you get put in tough spots with just bottom pair, and I think James was smart to recognize that if he calls there, he's probably going to get another 2 barrels from Kong, so might as well not lose any more chips than you need to.
James will be on the button this hand, which will make him first to go pre-flop. He's got Queen 10 suited. And he is getting the placards ready. Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room uses European-style placards for their bigger denom chips. Makes it 225, and Kong is going to call with Jack 9.
And I think unlike some of our other heads-up battles in the past, these players look like they enjoy getting to the flop and playing some poker.
The flop is 7-4-10. James connects with top pair. Kong again with a gut shot straight draw. James is going to fire $250,000, and Kong is going to call. These poker hands, Maria, are like a game of chicken. Who's going to flinch first?
The turn is a 4 of clubs. Kong is still looking for a jack or 9 or a gut shot, but James decides to slow down with his top pair here and check behind.
The river brings another 10, so now James has a full house, 10s full of 4s. Kong missed, but that's not going to stop him from betting.
I think once James checks behind on the turn, Kong has no reason to not try to take a stab at this pot. And this is really great for James because when he raises here, it's kind of hard for Kong to imagine that he would check back a 4 on the turn or a 10 on the turn. So, you know, Kong can't really call here, but if he had any piece, I think James would have gotten paid off.
Well, the momentum here heads up so far has been going Kong's way. Looks like James is starting to turn that momentum around to his way. Continuing on here, heads up. Blinds are still at 50 and 100,000 with a 10,000 chip ante. And Kong will be on the button. Makes him first to act here pre-flop. He's got Queen 3.
200. Thanks.
And he's going to min raise again to 200,000.
Caldo looks at Jack 8 off and he calls. And Jack 8 might not be the hand to do it with, but at some point I would like to see James 3-bet Kong with weaker type hands because Kong has shown to be raising almost every hand from the button.
The flop is 10, Jack 10 with 2 spades, so again James connects with top 2 pair. Kong with just Queen high fires the expected continuation bet, and James is just going to flat call. So this pot growing as we go to the turn.
The turn is the queen of hearts, and now Kong has the best hand with queens and tens. James checks, and Kong checks behind, not wanting to get check raised here.
The river is the three of hearts, so Kong has the best of it. James is going to check over.
And now that James checks the river, Kong knows it's safe for him to put in a value bet. And I don't think James is going to be able to fold here because some other draws, such as the flush draw, did miss. So now it's just a matter of how much Kong is going to bet.
330,000 is the bet from Kong, and I agree, Maria. I think James is going to pay him off.
Such a good check in the turn.
It's 330,000 for a pot of 1.17 million. It's hard to see James getting away from this.
Just got these.
I like the fact that James is taking the time to think about this call. Some players would just put the chips in, but you do have to realize that although Kong's been known to bluff, he could very well have something here once he checks back the turn.
Yeah, James just couldn't help it. He had to pay him off, and he's going to see that Kong has the best of it.
I know it, too. I usually throw that away. Good hand. When you check, you got it. It's just so bad.
These players battling it out for the championship and over $100,000 from the Daytona Beach Kennel Club here in Daytona, Florida, when we come back.
Such a good bet.
Welcome back to the HPT, coming to you from Daytona Beach, Florida at the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room. We are finally heads up. One of our final two players will go home with just over $104,000 in cash and the HPT title. Maria and Fred, we'll send it over to you.
Kong came into this final table with the chip lead, and he's looking to go wire to wire here as he's holding the chip advantage over James heads up.
When we started heads up, James had quite a chip lead over Kong, and now that gap has all but evaporated. These guys are pretty much neck and neck. This is anybody's game as we continue with the 5,100 blind level and a 10K ante. And Caldo will be on the button, so he'll post his small blind and make a decision on how he's going to play this hand as he looks down at Jack 7 offsuit. He's going to limp in. Oh, and look at this. Kong fam wakes up with a pair of eights.
And he's going to make it 250,000 to go. And James has shown that when he limps in, he usually doesn't fold to raises, so I don't see that changing this time. He does end up calling the 150,000.
How about a Jack 7-8 flop? That would create some fireworks, wouldn't it?
6-7-7 is a pretty good flop, but not as good for Kong as it is for James as he's flopped trip sevens.
And Kong still with an overpair to the board, probably not afraid of a whole lot. And look at this, James is just going to smooth call, let the aggressive player do the bidding for him. Maria, there's 1.12 million in the pot. I have a feeling that's going to be a lot bigger by the time we're done. The three of hearts falls on the turn. Kong's going to check over.
300.
Kong checks it over to James, and James bets 300,000, and I like that Kong is going to just check call here with eights. Shows a lot of restraint on his part.
The river is the 5 of spades, so James has the best hand. And for Kong, it looks like some red flags have gone up. He is slowing down, even though he's got an overpair to the board here.
Kong is definitely afraid of all the straight draws that came in on both the turn and the river.
Check.
And it looks like James was scared of the run out too as he checks behind with trip sevens.
Damn, what a card. Oh my God, I get some. Oh man. I know, but oh wow. He's gonna pay some. Such a bad
And as these players table their hands, James sees, oh boy, I could have gotten a lot more money from you.
Yeah.
Sometimes slow playing just doesn't work out because when the board runs out bad, you're not going to get the action you might have if you had fast played.
Caldo again first to go here. He's got pocket eights this time, and he's going to make it 250,000. And look at this. Oh my goodness, Kong fam wakes up with aces.
And you know, when you get big hands like this heads up, all the money is going to go in, and it's just going to be chalked up to a cooler.
Well, Kong has re-raised it to 650.
James with just over 30 big blinds, I'm sure, is just going to go all in here. There's enough dead money in the pot already. He's hoping to either just take it down pre, or he might even have Kong dominated.
This is where Kong's style of play gets him paid off a lot. Every now and then, a player like Kong is going to wake up with a hand like aces or kings, and they're going to get paid just like we're seeing right now. James does go all in. Kong snap calls, and James is going to see he's a 4-1 dog in this hand.
How many aces can this guy get? That's sick. Sorry in advance.
That's all right. That's what it is. I wouldn't fold that.
Second place pays a little over $64,000. First place a little over $104,000. And right now, Kong is the favorite to take this down. If James can find an 8 on this board, he'll double up and leave Kong with virtually nothing left in his stack. The HPT Championship on the line, Maria, as we go to the flop.
And the flop is 10-3-6, 2 clubs, not the flop James was hoping for. His chances of hitting an 8 has decreased now. Kong's still in the lead with aces.
I'll take the 8 of diamonds.
And the turn brings the 3 of hearts. So now it's just an 8 and only an 8. 5% chance for James to suck out here. Otherwise, we're looking at our new HPT champion.
It's hard to pick up aces heads up, and sometimes it's hard to win a tournament with them, but it looks like Kong's about to do just that. And yes, the river is a queen, and Kong is indeed going to take this wire-to-wire, becoming our newest HPT champion. Congratulations to James for his second place finish.
James played a fantastic final table with us here on the HPT, just ran into a cooler with Kong's aces. James Larson is on the floor with our second place finisher to find out what Caldo is going to do with $64,000.
And thanks so much, guys. Now I'm joined with James. And James, when you got heads up there, it seems like you pretty much went card dead for a while there. Explain.
Yeah, I just I wasn't catching any hands at all. And anytime I made a move with no hand at all, he was catching me. And I started off all right. I had a chip lead going in, but I was card dead. And I had no choice, and I picked up the 8s. It looked like 2 aces to me, and I ran into aces.
Never easy at the end to run those into aces, but we got to talk about your payday. You're going home with just over $64,000. I know you told your girlfriend no more seconds, but still, just over $64K, nothing wrong with that.
No, nothing wrong with it all. Now she gets 1 shoe. Yeah, she doesn't get 2. You know.
He said he was going to buy her a pair of shoes, but apparently since he got second, she only gets 1. Congratulations. Thanks for coming out. That's James. We had a great time with him. Maria and Fred, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you, James, and congratulations again to Caldo for his second place run, but the night belongs to Kong Fam. This gentleman really knows how to play poker. Drove the action all night long and kept these players guessing the entire way through. He is down on the floor with James Larson to talk about tonight's play.
Thank you, Maria and Fred. I'm joined with Dom Nero here from the Daytona Beach Kennel Club and Poker Room, as well as our new HPT champion. Give it up for Kong Fam, everybody. All right, Kong. First things first, how do you feel you're going home with just over $104,000? What's going through your mind?
Feel great and overwhelming, I think.
Yeah. Let's talk about heads up. For a while there, you were not the chip leader. You turned things around. You ended up taking it down with pocket aces. Talk us through this heads up match.
Very fortunate for me, I cast a lot of good cards, and I just beat him a lot of hand, and he wake up ace. That's a cooler there. You know, I would have put it on with that too. So it's yeah.
Dom Nero, I think we've got a very excited champion, but I have a feeling he's going to represent you very well.
Yes, he speaks more than me.
Yeah. So anyway, we want to congratulate you. Again, you're going home with $104,000. What a great week. Folks, give this guy a round of applause. Kong Fam, he outlasted over 300 players, and he's going home with the cash and the title. Maria and Fred, we'll send it back to you.
Thank you, James, and congratulations again to Kong. Maria, we don't usually see a final table like this on the HPT where one guy pretty much owns it. No matter what's happened to him throughout this night, Kong was steady and resolute the whole way. What is your take on the play?
Absolutely. Kong really knew how to take his opponent's image of him and use that against them. And Caldo played a really great solid game, but in the end, he just had some bad timing on some big hands, and in the end, ran into Kong's aces.
Boy, that's going to happen. Running into aces. At least you can say you lost because you ran into aces, and it's not a bad beat. Now, do you think you have what it takes to sit under the big national spotlight of the HPT? Your chance for fame and fortune can be just a click away. Log on to hptpoker.com and find an event near you. We have a lot of fun out there on the Great White Way. For Maria Ho and James Larson, I'm Fred Bevel. We'll see you next time right here on the HPT.
You out, but I'll take you down. And I'm the one with the stack showing 7 to the jack. Gonna cry to your mama cause I'm sending you back. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand. Last man standing with the money in my hand. I'll be the last man standing with the money in my hand.